Hello, and thank you for joining us. This is No Soundbites Allowed, and I am your host, Michael Voss, the political dragon here in our offices in the Bronx, New York. I'm joining you tonight. It's August 30th, about 1:30 in the morning, and I listened to the interview with CNN's Dana Bash and, of course, Kamala Harris, who is running for the presidency on the Democratic ticket, along with her vice presidential pick, Tim Walz. And that interview was quite interesting, but probably not for the reasons that CNN or Kamala Harris would like. And one of the things I want to really address at this moment. Now, I know that in the morning at 11 a.m., my good friend Larry Sharp, a libertarian, will be reviewing the entire interview, and I don't think he liked it very much. That's just my guess offhand. But going forward, I also know that we'll be talking about this on the Friday live stream with Liberty First Foundation. That'll be at 9 p.m. tonight. But I want to address the illegal immigration issue, that question and the answer, because I brought it up earlier today in the political shorts and, of course, also on TikTok. In fact, at the time, what I said was, as you can see here.
So, do you think that CNN is going to have the balls to ask a serious question about illegal immigration to Kamala Harris? You know, her border policy, where she's the border czar since March of 2021, 8 million illegal aliens have entered the country. We know that a 3,400% increase in known and suspected terrorists have entered the country. Illegal aliens have killed young women. And we know that most recently, at least 23 illegal aliens tried to commandeer 2 school buses in Southern California for unknown reasons. This is all because of the open border policy. What will Kamala Harris do now and in the future if she were to be elected? Do you think CNN has the balls to ask that? And do you think that Tim Walz, if they did ask, would allow Kamala to answer the question, or would he distract and deflect? What do you think?
Those are the questions I asked. Will CNN ask the question about illegal immigration? What will Kamala Harris have to say about it, both in terms of now, as the border czar, as someone who is she's part of the Biden-Harris administration, and what would she do if she were to be elected in 2025? 3 specific questions. I also added in, since Tim Walz will be there, would he be a distraction from the question, or would he try to chime in, and what kind of answer would he provide? So these are the essential 4 questions that I posed before the interview was published and allowed to be seen by the public. Fair enough. Now, as you may be aware, the interview was actually taped before it was published live to everyone. So we had a pre-taped interview, which brings the question, was it edited? Now, according to Dana Bash, there was no edit to the video. We don't know that for sure. What we also know is that, or another question we can ask, is was it done over? In other words, yeah, they provided no edit, but did they do the interview and then do the interview again? There's a question about that. And in fact, I also have a question about whether or not the questions asked by Dana Bash were provided to Kamala Harris ahead of time. Now, this is part of the question about immigration. So I don't know if it's that specific question or if it were the entire interview. But in that very specific question, there is something that makes me believe that either Kamala Harris had the question ahead of time or that they had redone the entire interview to make it flow better, to have better answers, a do-over, essentially. I'm not sure which of the two, and I'll explain why in just a moment as we listen to the question and how it was answered by Kamala Harris. But I should point out that on TikTok, we did have a lot of people who were very interested. We got about almost 800 people who were interested in this interview and had quite a few doubts. In fact, on the question, which I just showed you, we had a lot of questions that were being asked, and people were responding, they doubted very much that CNN would actually ask the question, and they also doubted whether or not the question was provided to Kamala beforehand. They doubted what Kamala's answer would be. So there were a lot of people who had a lot of issues with this. And they're very upset about illegal immigration. In fact, it's one of the top questions that Americans have in the 2024 election. Illegal immigration is a top issue, along with the economy. Now, that being said, this is the actual question. This comes from the part 2 from CNN. This version doesn't have the commercials and interruptions that CNN initially published the video with, or published the pre-taped interview with. So this is the first question of the second part from CNN itself. And in that, we're going to hear the question asked by Dana, and I want you to listen to how Kamala Harris responds to it.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. Mm-hmm. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
northern part of Central America.
The northern part of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S.
Okay, I want to stop right there. This is the first 19 seconds, and it kind of bugged me. It made me stop. So, one, to give Dana Bash credit, she is asking about illegal immigration. So, CNN did ask the important question, although they watered it down substantially. They're not addressing the fact that Kamala Harris is the border czar as of March 2021. They downplayed her responsibilities, which were to stop or at least severely limit the illegal alien wave, the surge that we have seen for the last 3.5 years. And it had started in February of 2021, which is why they put Kamala Harris on it immediately. So they downplayed Kamala Harris's responsibility as well as the outcome as best as they could. So while CNN gets the plus mark for having asked the question, they also get a demerit for downplaying it and another one for trying to minimize Kamala Harris's actions and responsibilities. But I'm bringing this up because I had to go, and this is from CNN Politics, and this is the transcript of the conversation. Again, this is minus all the cheerleading that we saw at the beginning of the documentary style that they started with, which was pumping up Kamala Harris. Again, adding some questions of credibility about the impartiality of CNN. But going beyond that, going into the questions itself, and we can see here, so Dana Bash is asking, okay, another issue, the big one, is immigration, as she says. Now, she goes into migration in southern countries, and then Kamala Harris jumps in, northern part of Central America, to which Dana Bash is now saying, the northern part, and Kamala Harris is saying, yeah. And this throws off Dana Bash, as you just saw. So it's in the transcript as well as what you just saw. It seems to indicate that Kamala Harris knew this question. She knew it exactly. She knew the question better than Dana Bash did because Dana Bash had difficulty in saying the question, as if she was trying to reword it in her mind. She's trying to edit the question to make sure she got it right, that it was minimized as much as possible to be as preferential towards Kamala Harris as could be. But Harris seemed to know exactly where she was going, seemed to know exactly what she was saying. Now, you could say, well, it's because it's the issue, the border, her being border czar, and the terms of being border czar. So she knew that. Maybe. But when I'm looking at the face, and again, we're looking at Dana looks a little bit off. Kamala seems absolutely confident, like she's totally prepared for this. She knew what was coming. Dana Bash seems to be thrown off. And again, let me play the whole thing again for you. And again, we're looking at the first 19 seconds. We're looking for this section right here, where we see that Dana Bash is cut off and Kamala Harris seems to know what is being asked of her.
Another issue, big one, is immigration. As Vice President, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and
Northern part of Central America.
the northern part
Yeah.
of Central America that affects the southern border of the U.S.
So again, these are the first 19 seconds. It sounds like Kamala Harris is not just prepared, but she knows exactly what Dana Bash is going to say. So did she have the question ahead of time? Did they redo the interview? And this is the second time that she's hearing it. And so, Kamala Harris is eager to show that she's fully prepared and she's answering the question ahead of time. I don't know. Again, it could be the third option, that she's just well prepped for this. It's possible. I don't know that that's the case. And I have no reason to give her the credibility, the benefit of doubt or belief. It seems off to me. It seems disingenuous. But that's me. You may have a different opinion about that. Let's go on. What else does Dana say?
During the Biden-Harris administration, there were record numbers of illegal border crossings. Why did the Biden-Harris administration wait 3.5 years to implement sweeping asylum restrictions?
So before we see Kamala Harris's reaction to that, again, going back to this, look at what she says. So, as vice president, you were tasked with addressing the root causes of migration in southern countries and the northern part of Central America. Well, let's be very clear. Just 2 weeks ago, all the major news media, including CNN, came out and tried to downplay and say that she wasn't the border czar, that she wasn't responsible for illegal immigration crossing the southern border. Now, this is factually incorrect, as we covered at the time, and we know that Axios and all the mainstream news media covered this and quoted her as being the border czar, and that was her responsibility. There is no question on that. So they know it's disingenuous. We know it's disingenuous. And now we have Kamala Harris admitting she was the border czar. She was responsible for trying to stem the flow of illegal immigration. That was the job she was given on March 24th of 2021. Fine. So she goes on to say, migration dealing with Central America that affects the southern border of the United States. During the Biden-Harris administration, there were a record number of illegal border crossings. She minimizes the impact here. There were a record number. There were 8 million known illegal aliens entering into the United States. That's 8 million that we caught in 3.5 years. Yes, that is record-breaking numbers. That doesn't count the ones that we didn't catch. So the number of illegal aliens entering into America is in excess of 8 million. That's the ones we know about and the ones we don't know about. So Dana Bash is significantly downplaying this as just, well, there's an extra 5,000 more than we had ever seen before. No. This is record-breaking. We're talking about double the numbers previously. This is beyond anything we've ever seen in this country because of the open border policies promoted by the Biden-Harris administration, effectively defeating or circumventing established law. Now that's important. There is established law about how to deal with illegal immigration in the United States. California, New York, many of the Democratic border states don't enforce those laws. They're sanctuary states and sanctuary cities, so they disregard the law that is in place, especially California, which, Kamala Harris was the Attorney General for. But we'll get into that in just a moment. So the question is, why did they wait? Because we know they only just started to deal with this. In fact, if we go to the detention law, we know that this was an issue February of 2024 that the Biden-Harris administration decided to try and shut down the border and have a bipartisan immigration deal and to build a wall. That all came up in 2024, 3.5 years after they took office. So the question is, why did you wait? What was the reason? We saw month after month, year after year, exceedingly high numbers of illegal aliens entering into the United States, and it was Kamala Harris's job to stop that. So what is her specific answer to that question?
Well, first of all, the root causes work that I did as vice president, that I was asked to do by the president, has actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. The number of immigrants coming from that region has actually reduced since we began that work. But I will.
Her answer starts off, the first thing she says is, the root cause of what she did as vice president was because of Joe Biden. So she's trying to deflect it. This was something that Joe Biden should have been taking care of, and he passed the buck down to Kamala Harris as vice president. She's shifting the blame, saying this is something the president should have handled, but he gave it to her. Well, that doesn't mean it's not the president's job. He can't do everything. And he gave it to her because she was supposed to be capable. In fact, she was a former prosecutor, a former attorney general in a border state. She should be familiar with it. In fact, that's what he said in March of 2021. That's why she was given the assignment, because she should be able to do it. And if she wants to be president, it's something where she could showcase how good she is at the job. So that doesn't take away any of her responsibilities. She's still responsible. No matter who gave her the job, no matter how she feels about whether or not it should have been done by someone else, it was her job and it was her mission to accomplish, point blank. So saying that it's Joe Biden's job doesn't work. She goes on to say, this actually resulted in a number of benefits, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. Wait a minute, illegal aliens are a benefit? We've heard this story before. We've heard this from Nancy Pelosi and many other Democrats. Illegal aliens are a benefit. That's why New York, Boston, Chicago, LA, all the border towns are going bankrupt. The infrastructure has been destroyed because illegal aliens are such a boon to the economy. They boost up the economy so much that we're seeing cities and states go bankrupt trying to deal with them. So I don't understand how she can actually say there's a number of benefits. What are the benefits? Now, Dana Bash doesn't follow up and ask, what benefits? What is the good thing that happened for the American public, for the American economy, for having these illegal aliens in our country? People that we now are supporting, giving them a place to live, giving them food, giving them money to supplement them. We're taking care of them cradle to grave, hand over foot. What's the benefit that we're getting out of that? Kamala Harris never explains that. She never clarifies. She says, it's just a good thing. It's just great. It's wonderful for us. Really? How? Please justify this. Please explain this. So we don't know what these benefits are that she's talking about, but we do know many of the negatives, which includes not just that we have to take care of these individuals, but some of them have gone and committed crimes. In fact, some of them have gone on to commit murder. And as we have covered previously, some of these individuals who have entered the country illegally have not been vetted, and they are in fact members of terrorist organizations. There were 378 known or suspected terrorists that have been captured by the United States government after entering the United States upon crossing our southern border. We know that there were 8 individuals in California. We know there was at least two members of Hezbollah that were caught trying to go into New York to bomb there. We know that these things have happened. And again, that 378, that is an increase of 3,400%. 34 times higher than the entire 4-year term under President Trump. That is an enormous exponential increase. So I don't see benefits. What are the benefits? We don't know. She goes on to say, including historic investments by American businesses in that region. Which businesses? Security firms? I'm sure they're doing gangbuster business having to secure all the properties. Construction? Maybe, because businesses are being broken into. They have to build temporary shelters. So there are some businesses that will do well because it's just a lot of people, and those people have to be taken care of. Businesses that are selling food, they're selling blankets and clothing. Yeah, they're going to make money because these individuals have a need. But that doesn't mean it's good for the infrastructure of cities and states. It doesn't mean it's productive for the American government. And by the way, where's the money coming from that these people are spending? They came to America because they are impoverished. They don't have money. These aren't rich people bringing in their wealth into the United States and then building businesses and supplementing and creating more wealth in America. No, they're a drain. They are impoverished. They have no money. They have nothing to provide, and they are taking money. We have to print more money to take care of them, which means America is going more and more into debt. And by having to print more money, that means we have more inflation. That means poor people are hurt more and more. So again, there's no benefit. And the minor benefit to some local businesses, some of them, does not outweigh the net weight of the problem. So again, what Kamala Harris is saying makes no sense. And then she goes on to say, the number of migrants coming from that region, that would be South America, but they're not just coming from South America. See, that's also a misconception. We know they're coming from Africa, like in Angola. We know that they're coming from Southeast Asia, like Thailand. We know that they're coming from China. So they're not just coming from South America. That's a misrepresentation. That's not accurate. They're not just coming from Central America. That is a misrepresentation. That is not accurate. Some would even go to say that that is misinformation, if not disinformation, because it's not accurately representing what is the problem, that we have people from countries over in Europe, from Europe and Africa, from the Middle East, and from Southeast Asia that are entering into America, and they're becoming a larger and larger portion of the illegal aliens entering into the United States. That's an accurate picture, and that's an accurate statement. So to say that the number of migrants coming from that region, Central America, well, yeah, that has reduced. But the number of illegal aliens coming from Africa, the number of illegal aliens coming from the Middle East, the number of illegal aliens coming from Southeast Asia has increased, not only to equal, but to surpass the number of illegal aliens coming from Central America and Northern South America. That's just the fact. So she's playing with the numbers. She's playing with the demographics. She's playing a word game, hoping that no one has paid attention to the actual situation at hand. And that's kind of insulting to the American people. And it's something that Dana Bash knows the facts. She knows these details, and she should be able to call it out. She should be able to say, well, yes, there's less people come from South America. There's more people coming from the Middle East. Can you please explain that? That doesn't resolve the problem. You didn't do your job. So that's the first paragraph of what Kamala Harris had to say. She lied, essentially. But let's go on to see what else does she have to say. And again, look at her face as she's going through this.
I'll say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security.
Do you notice how she keeps looking down? I'm just highlighting. She's looking down continuously. She's not looking up like she's trying to remember something. She's not looking at Dana because we see when she looks up, she looks at Dana. So it's not that she's looking at someone in the crew. It's not that she's trying to remember. Normally when people are remembering something, they look up and to the left and to cue their memory to remember something. People look up and they think about something. She's looking down. She's looking down and at her side, as if something was in writing, whether it be a cue card, a note, whatever it might be, that she's looking for something, and she's trying to look at the notes to see what she wants to say. And she doesn't sound as confident in what she's saying. She seems to be not as comfortable talking about this, in my opinion.
Which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill.
So let's stop here again, because before she goes into Donald Trump and, of course, Orange Man Bad, which is the answer to everything, according to Democrats, and that's what we've seen in 2024. Everything is Orange Man Bad. But she goes into the second paragraph here where she says she's talking about legislation. She's talking about the very bill that I was talking about here. That's in 2024. The question is, what about the time before 2024? 2021, 2022, 2023. That was the specific question asked by Dana Bash. That's not being answered by Kamala Harris. She's talking about 2024. She's talking about legislation in Congress. But here's the other thing. Besides the fact that they're only recently trying to put in legislation after 3 years of not doing anything, they don't have to do that. They don't need new legislation. The law already exists. We already have immigration laws. We already have rules about asylum. They already exist. All the executive branch needs to do is to enforce the laws. In fact, that's their job. The executive branch enforces the law. They don't create law. They don't suggest new law. They don't make new law. That's Congress. They don't have to do anything about that. That's not the responsibility of Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to make a new law. That's the problem for Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate. Their job, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, is to enforce the law that exists. Not the one that they want, but the one that is already there. So to say that, well, it's the members of Congress, they're stuck on this immigration issue, that's not her problem. That's not her job. That's not in the duties of the president or the vice president. That's a separate branch of Congress. She's not a senator anymore. She's vice president. She's there to enforce the law, not to make law. So her answer saying that, well, they worked with members of Congress on an immigration bill and trying to get the border under control, that's not your job. The law is already there. It's already very clear. You may not like it. You may want to see it changed. And you can always say, get on a press conference and say, we should see these laws changed. But your job is to enforce the law. She goes on to say, and through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which she supports. Okay. So she's saying, well, it's just those evil Democrats. Okay. Matter of fact, let me go into the Donald Trump Orange Man Bad part of the answer that she provides.
Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border, and because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock, and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us.
Okay. So before she goes into what she imagines would have been the benefits of this bill, because we don't know. There's no way to know what could have happened. Who knows? Anything could have happened. There might have been more illegal aliens. There might have been more drugs and fentanyl and sex trafficking. We don't know. So she's imagining the best case scenario, which honestly under the Biden-Harris administration hasn't been what consistently has happened. We don't get the best case scenarios in all of the things they imagine that will happen. Look at the economy. Bidenomics isn't working. That's just a fact. Inflation has been as high, well, it is over 20% in the life since the day that Joe Biden took office. We're over 20%. You know that. You go to a grocery store, you're paying 40% more for some of the items that you buy. So to say that what they hoped it would be doesn't mean that that's what it is. But she's specifically talking about this bill, and she's saying, well, it's Donald Trump's fault, that it's Donald Trump who stopped this. Okay, this is from Politico, which is left-leaning. And Politico says progressives in both chambers of Congress, that's in the House of Representatives and in the Senate, are turned off by this deal that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden signed off on, the one that has all these conservatives behind it. The progressives in the House of Representatives and in the Senate did not like this deal. So, wait a minute, Donald Trump told the progressives to kill the deal? Because that's what we just heard. Orange Man Bad killed the deal. He talked to his people in Congress and they killed the deal. Well, the progressives aren't part of Donald Trump's people, quote unquote. So they didn't want the deal. So that seems a little bit odd. Going a little further into the deal, under its asylum stipulations, we see that, again, according to Politico, this is February of 2024, immigrant advocates quickly panned the proposal. Illegal alien advocates. Illegal alien, that's left-leaning, that's the left. That's not the conservatives, that's not Republicans. That's something that the left does. They promote illegal aliens. So these illegal immigrant advocates panned the proposal, with the ACLU arguing that it would eviscerate long-standing protections. So the ACLU, which is notoriously left-leaning, they didn't want this. But they're not with Donald Trump. They're not part of Trump's agenda. They're not right-leaning conservatives. So, again, Kamala Harris, it doesn't make sense. She's saying it was a done deal. It's only because of Donald Trump. But here are these left-leaning groups, left-leaning organizations, left-leaning idealists. They don't want this deal. They're saying they're shooting it down. Then we get into, again, still under that same Political article from February of 2024, talking about the documented dreamers. Well, the illegal alien advocates, again, that's the left. These are left-leaning organizations and some Democrats. So not just the organizations, but Democrats themselves, elected officials in the House of Representatives and the Senate, quickly slammed the lack of relief or pathways for citizenship for so-called dreamers. You know, DACA, the people that Barack Obama said 20 times in a row that he could not help, that he did, in fact, make an executive order to help. So they slammed the lack of relief or pathways to citizenship for so-called dreamers or undocumented illegal aliens who came to the United States as children. So there's a group of these Democrats that are upset because DACA is not included in this legislation that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden supported. And they said, well, this is Donald Trump's fault. These are Democrats we're talking about. It's got nothing to do with Donald Trump. Has nothing to do with Republicans or conservatives. This is the left that has a problem with this. The legislation does, however, aim to provide a pathway to citizenship for documented dreamers or children who accompany their parents on a work visa and could potentially lose their place in line for a green card at 21. Well, that's a problem why Republicans wouldn't like this. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. It's that dreamers, whether they're documented or undocumented, most conservatives, most Republicans don't want them to have a pathway to citizenship. And this bill is providing a pathway to citizenship. So there's a reason why Republicans and conservatives don't like this. In addition to that, another reason why many conservatives, many Republicans didn't like this deal and why it didn't go forward is, yes, it would have spent more money on the Customs and Border Protection and DHS. There would have been more agents hired, but what would they do? Those 1,500 agents, would they be stopping people from illegally entering America? Or would they be helping those illegal aliens to enter America, which is what the Biden-Harris administration has them doing right now? That's what they were going to be hired to do. They weren't hiring people to stop them. They were hiring people to increase the amount of paperwork that was being done. You see, if you go back and look at the ports of entry section about this bill, DHS would still be considering people for requests for asylum, but they need more. The Department of Homeland Security would have to hire more CBP officers to process these asylum requests, these continuous asylum requests. Even if the border were to shut down, they would still be processing 1,400 asylum requests every single day. That's if they shut down, quote unquote, shut down or realistically slowed down the border and access by illegal aliens. So illegal aliens are still coming into the country. They're just not letting them all in at once. They're slowing down how many come in on any given day. And they need more workers to do all the paperwork and to process these individuals because they would have to get them processed faster. They would have less than 6 months to process them all. That's in the bill. So, no, that's not stopping illegal immigration. It's just slowing it down at best and allowing more people to enter on a regular basis. So Kamala Harris is wrong. She's making up her own facts. She's misreading what happened, and she's trying to blame it on Orange Man Bad because everything is Orange Man Bad. She's factually incorrect, and it's documented. That's the thing that really gets me. It's documented that progressives, Democrats, the ACLU, advocates for illegal immigration, people who support DACA, they were all against this bill. It wasn't just Donald Trump. It wasn't just Republicans. So she's just making this up as she goes because it sounds good for her. It makes Democrats look good. It makes them look innocent. It makes her look innocent. But she's misinforming you. And I'm showing you the document and the timestamp that shows she's talking out of her. She's not being correct. She's misinforming, if not disinforming, something that Democrats are supposed to be totally against. They're supposed to be outraged by misinformation and disinformation, yet that's what Kamala Harris is doing right now. Let's go on and see what else Kamala Harris has to say.
To increase seizures of fentanyl, ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation.
So, again, what we just heard. So Kamala Harris is now pandering. She's playing on people's emotions, saying, it's, if you just did what we wanted, there would be less fentanyl in America. Well, there's no guarantee of that. Again, according to the bill, as I showed you, that doesn't stop illegal immigration. It doesn't stop people crossing the border. It slows down how many people enter the border. It still doesn't address the people who are not going through the border crossings, the people who aren't caught by the Customs Border Patrol. So they're not increasing the number of agents to actually catch illegal aliens, they're adding more paper pushers. That's what she's adding. So we don't know that would actually increase, or rather decrease, the number of the amount of shipments of fentanyl into America. She's making that up. That's her pipe dream. She hopes that would be the result. But she also hoped that all of her efforts for the last 3.5 years would have stopped illegal immigration. That didn't happen either. We have no reason to believe that she's correct. So she's just pandering to people's emotions, saying, oh, don't you want to stop fentanyl? Well, you should just obey. Stop asking questions. Vote for me. I'm sorry, that doesn't work for me. What else does she have to say about illegal immigration?
Again, I just want to
Not
ask
only
about
push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
just one other question about something that you said in 2019 when you first ran. There was a debate. You raised your hand when asked whether or not the border should be decriminalized. Do you still believe that?
I believe there should be consequence. We have laws that have to be followed and enforced that address and deal with people who cross our border illegally, and there should.
Okay, so what did she say? She's going to push the legislation. She's going to make sure that it gets signed. Well, you can't guarantee that it would be signed. You said the same thing. Joe Biden said the same thing in February of this year. You said it's going to pass. You're going to get it through. It didn't happen. You also said you would get all the hostages home and that there was going to be a ceasefire. That didn't happen either. So you may want to do it, but that doesn't mean it will happen. That's just not the reality politically. And considering that progressives and Democrats and illegal immigration advocates are against the bill, it seems like you're not going to get it passed in 2025 any more than you got it passed in 2024 if you were to win. But let's go even further. So Dana Bash goes on to ask a question and points out this is her history. This is her record. This is Kamala Harris's record. In 2019, she said, she raised her hand and said, well, indicated that she wanted to decriminalize the border, to make it legal to have an open border, to allow people to enter the United States without being stopped. Kamala Harris is one of the few that actually said that. She was in favor of decriminalizing it. So what's Kamala Harris saying? There should be consequences. You didn't say that in 2019. You're flip-flopping your position. You didn't say that you were going to enforce the law. You said you wanted to change the law. That you, in fact, favored making open borders the law. So her saying that, well, there are going to be consequences, that means nothing.
Should be consequence. And let's be clear, in this race, I'm the only person who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations who traffic in guns, drugs, and human beings. I'm the only person in this race who actually served a border state as Attorney General to enforce our laws. And I would enforce our laws as president going forward. I recognize the problem.
Okay, so she goes on to say she's the only one who was an AG, Attorney General, of a border state. Well, that doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean you did your job well. That doesn't mean that you would be a good president. One has nothing to do with the other. And she says, well, I'm the only one who's a prosecutor. That doesn't mean you'd be a good president. That doesn't have anything to do with it because you're vice president right now and you're not enforcing the law as it exists. So if we're going by your record, Kamala Harris, yes, you were the AG. Yes, you were a DA. And now you are vice president and you're not enforcing the law. But you're telling us if you get an upgrade, if you get promoted, then you're going to start following the law. A law that you don't agree with, that you have said in the past, and she did not deny and did not answer the inherent question. Do you support decriminalizing the border to make open borders legal? Does she support that? She didn't say no. she didn't exactly flip-flop. She avoided the question. And it's an important question. So in listening to her and looking at the question in writing and looking at the answer in writing, as well as what she said and how she said it, I have every reason to believe she still wants to make open borders the law, and that there's no reason why she would enforce the law as it exists right now, because she doesn't agree with it. That's why she isn't doing it now. As borders are, someone who's had 3 years to enforce the law, she has no intention of doing that. So she's doing a very bad job for someone who is the only one experienced at actually prosecuting these cases. But that doesn't mean that Donald Trump, who has been president, who has enforced the law, would be less effective than her. Because again, under the Trump-Pence administration, there was lower illegal immigration than there is under the Biden-Harris administration. There was more law enforcement with Trump than there is under Biden and Kamala Harris. That's a fact. So we have no reason to believe anything she's saying. She's giving us hype. She's saying this is what she would do, not that this is what she is doing. Now, if you remember, when I started off, I was talking about my video, my short video, where I asked 3 very specific questions. Would CNN ask the question? They did. They did, in fact, ask the question. Watered down, and they didn't follow up, and they didn't correct Kamala Harris when she misstated things and misrepresented the facts, but they did ask the question. So there's that. Now, I also said, is Kamala Harris going to answer it? Well, she kind of answered some of it. She also avoided some of it. So it's very unclear there. And as for Tim Walz, no, he didn't distract. He did allow Kamala Harris to basically bury herself in this. And he didn't get involved. He wasn't used as a distraction. He didn't say anything. So he was mostly useless. Fantastic. Now, do you think this was good enough? Was this the answer you wanted to hear? I don't think most people were satisfied by this, on this question, these answers that she provided. Once you take away the emotion that some people are very much captivated by, once you take out Orange Man bad as the answer to everything, and you actually listen to what she said and how she said it, and you look at the actual record she has, well, there's not much to approve of. There's not much to like there. It's not a positive outlook. It's rather bleak. And there's no reason to believe Kamala Harris will be any better in the future than she is today. And if there was anyone who is credibly asking questions and following up with some of the facts that we've just presented to you, that we know Dana Bash, CNN, their 10,000 employees, and their hundreds of millions of dollars in resources, they know the answers of everything we just provided. They knew this, and they didn't choose to follow up. They decided to leave you, the American people, in the dark. They decided to let you be gaslit and emotionally manipulated because they want Kamala Harris to do well. I mean, look at the end of the interview. It's a puff piece. The beginning and the end of the interview is all about trying to make Kamala Harris look as good as possible so that you'll vote for her. And they let her get away with half answers at best. So there's not a lot of credibility there. They know better. They just don't want you to know better. But I wanted to be fair. I asked a question yesterday. I put it out on TikTok. I put it out on YouTube and on Rumble. And we got an answer. And I wanted to share that with you. And of course, tomorrow morning I'll be listening in to my friend Larry Sharp, a libertarian, and looking at his point of view about the questions and the answers that came from Kamala Harris. And then at 9 o'clock on Friday, I'll be joining the Liberty First Foundation to talk about their answers and their viewpoints about the entire interview. I look forward to hearing your comments as well. I thank you for taking the time to join us today. I hope you'll watch the show and also join us on Sunday for the live stream. But until then, I wish you the best. Why do 70% of critical thinkers ditch Disney Plus? Because they found something better. In today's economy, every dollar counts. So what's worth subscribing to? Let's compare Disney Plus and no Soundbites Allowed. With Disney Plus, you're shelling out $140 a year for virtue signaling shows targeting mythical modern audiences. Plus, a theater visit could cost you $40 or more. Ouch. Now imagine a platform where fresh perspectives, insightful interviews, and engaging discussions are at your fingertips. That's no Soundbites Allowed. And the best part? It's free with an option to support only if you choose. While Disney Plus ticks off virtue signal checkboxes, no Soundbites Allowed offers real talk and sharp analysis. Perfect for those who crave depth and clarity. Why break the bank for entertainment? Subscribe to No Soundbites Allowed and enjoy meaningful content without the hefty price tag.